Okay, looks like we're going live. Okay, looks like I'm live on Facebook and YouTube. Hello, everybody. It is Mark Dolfini, and this is the Ask Coach session here on Saturday, roughly around 11 o'clock. I usually try to be timely, but usually I'm I'm usually a few minutes late. So I apologize again, but here I am. So today we're going to cover something really important, and that is a really good question that I had asked of me by who was it? Julie and her husband, Julie and Tom. They had asked me a question in terms of, why specifically do I not do a tips and tricks session? Kind of like, what kind of flooring to use and maybe different types of paint and things like that. Things that I learned all along the way in my 20 years in being in the real estate business. And it's hard to believe I've done anything professionally for 20 years, but quite frankly, if this became illegal, I would have to become a criminal because I don't know anything else. But there's a lot of different things that I've learned along the way, I'm sharing this with on both my personal page and my and the landlord coach page because there are first of all, let me back into it first and foremost. First and foremost, if you're thinking about getting into the real estate business, I want you to start with a vision of what you're trying to create first and foremost. And the reason why I want you to do that is because I want you to build a business. I don't want you just to create a side hustle. I don't want you to, there's a lot of people who get into trading stocks, right? And then all of a sudden they realize how much of it's a lot of work if you want to do it and want to do it well. I did day trading for a while and it was a lot of work. I was moderately successful with it, but it's a lot of work and it's a lot of work if you want to do it well. Now, if you just want to go on there and gamble and buy penny stocks and roll the dice and see if you're going to do well, fine. But that's gambling. That's not investing. If you want to be intentional about this, then you really need to start with the end in mind, right? Stephen Covey, who was the author of the 7 Habits, he one of the main things that my big takeaway from him was to begin with the end in mind. So if to begin with the end in mind, establishing that vision for your future, why would you want to start with that? Well, why would you? Because you might think, okay, well, I want to get myself into a real estate business, and then you buy a rental property, you freaking hate it, and it has nothing. All you've done is create a job for yourself. All you've done is create a horrible job for yourself, and you really don't have anybody else to run it except you. So when the resident calls and says, "I have something that's not working," well, guess what? That means you get in the car or you're making the phone call. And that's what I want to. That's why I want you to avoid that. So, everybody who is joining me today, hello. It's good to see you all. So why don't I start with the do tips and tricks? Well, because I want you to start with strategy. I want you to start with the vision of where you want to go. Again, this is basically based on a map, and a map is only useful if you know 2 things, right? As a navigator in the Marine Corps, I spent a lot of time in front of maps and charts, and maps are really only useful if you know 2 things. If you know where you are and you know where you want to go. Well, if you just say, well, I want to head west, well, you really don't even need a map for that. You can just wait for the sun to come up and head in the opposite direction, right? That's not really what you should be doing with your investing. And that's what I did for a long time. And it's because that's why I just wandered the woods for a while. I wasn't really intentional with that. Okay. So first of all, I want you to be building a strategy in terms of what direction you want to go in. So if I just say, hey, this is what you should do as an investor. You should go and buy single-family dwellings. You should buy single-family dwellings, and you should buy them in Gary, Indiana, and that's where you should go. That's where you should go and buy and do your investments, right? Now, does that one-size-fits-all type of investing strategy work for everybody? No, not even remotely. What if you don't live anywhere near Gary, Indiana? And quite frankly, what if you don't have any interest in investing in that part of the country? And what if you don't have any interest in investing in single family dwellings? But I say specifically, this is why you should invest in those, right? So that makes no sense. And that goes on to my second point, is that the reason why I don't talk talk about tips and tricks is because I've got people that watch my channel on, I mean, they're on various ends of the spectrum in terms of um, of experience, right? So like I've got newbie investors and I've got really experienced investors. I've got apartment syndicators and I've got the right out of college newbie investors that are still renting their first place, right? They don't own anything. They don't even own their own car. They're leasing it, right? So these are the sorts of things that are these are the different levels of people of investors that I'm dealing with, right? So for me to go on would be irresponsible if I was to say, hey, this is what you should do, right? Now, let's back into it another way. So I get a lot of people who will often ask, all right, well, I'm not talking about tips and tricks for investing specifically, but what about tips and tricks for like what types of maybe for repairs, or what you should do, what's the most durable type of flooring, or, hey, coach, why don't you do a semi-gloss paint versus a flat paint, right? These, like, all of that minutia you can get sucked into. There's literally millions and millions of things that you could talk about just in maintenance alone. And I spent a lot of time in maintenance. That's actually something that I actually do enjoy, is the maintenance side of the business. So if I'm looking at it from the perspective of, okay, well, again, what some of the types of people that are watching what I do, that are watching these videos, are they're not just rental property investors. Some people are watching that are house flippers. Some people are watching that are wholesalers. Some people are dealing with land contracts, or raw land, or they're doing note investing. And some people are just looking at it from the perspective of just business in general. So in terms of the tips and tricks, I really appreciate the question, but I've been very purposeful in not doing that sort of stuff. I'll do it on occasion, in the membership side of the site, where there's people who maybe come in and I know what types of problems they're having, so I might address that in a video specifically for the members. But I don't do that that's really just more a list building when you're doing that on YouTube, just to try to get more people to watch your channel. And that's not really what I'm about. I'm not about having, serving a million people on my YouTube channel. What I'm really about is making sure that you're always backing into and asking your question of, is this in alignment with the vision for my future? Is this in alignment with what I'm trying to accomplish? And if it isn't, it likely doesn't have anything to do with your business. It should have everything to do with what you're trying to accomplish as an individual, right? Remember, our businesses they do not focus, they exist for us, right? They serve us. Just think of them as a vessel. If you want to get downstream, that business is nothing more than a canoe. It's a vessel to get you from here downstream. Now, if your vision is to get to the top of a mountain, you don't want to build a canoe. You probably want to get a mule, and that's a good vessel to get you from the bottom of a mountain to the top of a mountain. A canoe is not. Remember, it should all follow under that litmus test of the 3 E's: efficient, effective, and enjoyable. And if it doesn't pass that litmus test, then you likely shouldn't be doing it, especially if it's not going to deliver you closer to your ideal vision for your future. And if you don't have anything planned out in terms of what you're trying to accomplish, then what's it all for in the beginning? Why are you even starting a business in the first place, right? So that's really it. Now, the other thing is that I'm obviously not the only person that you're going to be learning from, and you shouldn't be learning from, right? I'm going to be I'm obviously a strategy guy. I'm more of a bigger picture guy. That's just naturally how I think. But there's going to be other people that you're going to learn tactics from that say, okay, here, if you are, let's pretend that you're a buy and hold investor and you are watching this guy on YouTube, or he's a guru or whatever. You see him on Bigger Pockets, and he's going to tell you the best way to make sure your tenants pay on time. Okay. And that is a strategy. That is a tactic, not a strategy, but it's a tactic that you want to employ because you really like that. Now, I'm not about to tell you that that is wrong. If that is going to get you closer to your vision for your future, and that's one less thing that you have to worry about because that tactic is so solid, then absolutely. Just like I don't invest, I don't do a lot of working with HUD, right? Section 8 housing. The housing prices that we deal with and generally tend to be above what they service anyway. But but I do. It's not a strategy that I want to work with, right? Now, some areas you have no choice. Some areas it's mandated that you work with the Section 8 program. But if you're not in an area that's where it's mandated, which is not very many, then if I'm going to tell you that that is the best way to make sure that you are, it's the easiest way for you to, to live the life of your dreams. There's many people out there, for example, who invest solely in trailer parks, right? Mobile home parks, because they don't own the mobile homes. All they have is the land, and it's a pretty easy no-brainer way to make a bunch of money. And I know a lot of people who do really well with those. It's not in alignment with what I want for my vision. It really isn't. For me personally, am I telling you it's a bad strategy? Am I telling you that it's a bad investment? No. If it's in alignment with your vision for what you're wanting to get to, then you should absolutely do it. But how do you get to that vision? Well, I talked about that in a video I posted, I think either yesterday or the day before, but on YouTube. But the main thing in the vision for your future is really getting very intentional about what it is you're trying to accomplish. What's it all for? What's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? What's it all for? Whether you're working a job or you're working your business, or you're doing investments, what's the whole point of it? What's this excess cash flow that you're seeking? What's it going to deliver for you, right? Just having a pile of money sitting in the bank is not going to do you anything any more than having a bunch of toys that you never get to play with because you're working all the time, right? What's the whole point? What's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? I would say for all of us, it's time. Time is what you should be seeking the most. And again, I don't know how best to say this, but wealthy people will buy back their time. The wealthiest people will buy back their time. They were going to find ways to do things where they will have time, where they're valuing themselves so highly that it's not about their value, that they're buying themselves so they can sit on their ass. They're buying themselves time so they can spend it doing higher level things, higher level thinking, higher level activities, whatever that is. So, for example, this is another reason why I don't do tips and tricks, because if I'm going to tell you how the fastest way to hold a paintbrush against a wall, well, what if your skill set is one where you're a horrible painter and nothing in the world that I'm going to tell you is going to teach you how to be a better painter? Well, yeah, I'm an okay painter, but I can paint things pretty fast just because of the things I've had to do over the years to learn how to be a decent painter. Now, am I faster than a guy who does it every single day? No. That's why I want you to hire those guys, at $12, $15, $20 an hour, because you did not get into the real estate business to create a $12, $15, or $20 an hour job for yourself. I hope to God your hourly rate is somewhere between $50 to $200 an hour. And that's really what you should be angling for. So if your rate is actually, say, $50 to $75 an hour, does it make sense for you to be doing a $12 an hour job? No, because let's just say your billing rate is $50 an hour. As an investor, that's the higher level thinking that you should be doing. When you're doing a $12 an hour paint job, you're costing yourself $38 an hour. It's opportunity cost. Okay. Opportunity cost. Understand that. Once you get an understanding really what that is, then you're not going to allow yourself to do that lower end stuff. So that's a main reason why I don't get into the tips and tricks stuff, because really for me, it's not about list building. For me, it's not about establishing rapport with a bunch of people that really, there's a lot of other stuff out there. Like, I don't need to be replicating stuff that's already good, that's already out there, that's already professionally produced. But specifically, this is about strategy. And I want you to employ that strategic thinking so you are creating a better life for yourself. And it's all in alignment with your vision for the future. I promise you did not get put on this planet so you could toil and do things that you're just not naturally good at. Okay, you all have a natural gift, and it may not have anything to do with what gets you to your level of investment that you're looking for. Okay, does that make sense? I hope so. All right. Thanks so much for keeping the Ask Coach questions coming in. If you've got any questions, you may email me at mark@landlordcoach.com. Of course, members, you get your priority to the Ask Coach sessions. This was from Tom and Julie in South Bend. So thank you, Tom and Julie, for sending that email in. But yes, thank you again. If you've got any questions, you can send that to me either through Messenger, or you can email me at mark@landlordcoach.com. Please remember, if you have if you have any specific, what am I trying to say here? If you have any specific questions related to tips and tricks and strategies and things like that, you're always welcome to post them on the Landlord Coach page, just so we can all get the benefit, right? All right. Have a great rest of your weekend. Remember, if you don't place a value on your free time, someone else will. Take good care, and we'll see you again. Take it easy.